On Sunday afternoon, April 1st, 1984, Marvin Gaye tried to play referee in a petty argument between his mother and father over a missing insurance document. His efforts cost him his life. Today, we're going to take a look at the murder of Marvin Gaye. Okay, let's go back to 1984. To understand Marvin Gaye's death, we have to go all the way back to the formative years of his relationship with his father, Marvin Gaye Sr. Marvin Sr. was a minister and a healer with a Pentecostal church which was known as the House of God. House of God advocates a strict code of conduct among its followers. Using those religious bylaws, Marvin Sr. ruled his household with a heavy hand. Sr. was also a conflicted and complicated man. He couldn't hold down a job for very long. He was a raging alcoholic, and he was a cross-dresser. He also abused his 4 children, often in the name of religion, and he dealt his harshest punishments on Marvin Jr. According to Marvin's sister, Jean, from the age of 7 until well into his teenage years, Gaye's life consisted of brutal whippings. Marvin Jr. said that living with his father was like living with a king, an all-cruel, changeable, cruel, and all-powerful king. If it wasn't for his mother, Marvin would have ended his own life. Similarly, Gaye's mother, Alberta, admitted that her husband despised her son. "My husband never wanted Marvin, and he never liked him. He used to say he didn't think he was really his child, but for some reason he didn't love Marvin. And what's worse, he didn't want me to love Marvin either." Oddly enough, Gaye developed his love for singing and performing from his father. Around the age of 5, Marvin Sr. coached him in piano lessons, which Gaye quickly learned by ear. Gaye sang in his father's church choir, and it was one of the few stable times in the father and son's relationship. Flash forward to 1984. Gaye was 44 years old, and he was experiencing a career comeback after 5 years of shaky output. His first post-Motown album, Midnight Love, was at the top of the charts, and he was enjoying the biggest hit of his career with Sexual Healing, which spent 10 weeks at #1 on the Hot Black Singles chart. Sexual Healing eventually became the biggest R&B hit of the 1980s. Gaye wrapped up his 4-month tour, a tour that was a disaster from its opening on April 18th in San Diego, California. When it began, Gaye was relatively healthy and happy, and relatively drug-free. But by a few weeks into the tour, he was going in heavy on cocaine. As the tour moved from the west coast of America to the east coast and back, Gaye's behavior started to get increasingly erratic. Due to his non-stop drug use, Gaye was becoming increasingly paranoid throughout the tour. He hired a small army of personal bodyguards, and he'd wear a bulletproof vest up until the point when he walked on stage. Somewhere in the middle of the tour, Gaye became positive that a hitman had been hired to take him out. Later in the tour, he worried that he was being secretly poisoned. During a stop in Boston while at a press conference, reporters sat stunned as Gaye revealed that he had hired famed attorney F. Lee Bailey to determine how, why, and by whom he had been poisoned during the tour. He added that a mystical potion concocted by activist and comedian Dick Gregory had saved his life. After the tour, Gaye retreated to the large house he bought his parents at 2101 South Gramercy Place in Los Angeles to recuperate. For the next 9 months after the tour, the house was home to non-stop madness. Marvin Sr., Alberta, and Marvin Jr. slept in 3 adjoining second-story bedrooms. The couple hadn't slept in the same room together for over 10 years. Marvin's brother, Frankie, and his wife Irene lived in a detached guest house. Most of the time, Marvin Sr. was holed up in his room, swigging vodka, while his son shut himself away in his bedroom. Marvin's mother saw his condition and his addiction. His mother said Marvin would say, "Mother, this is the last time, I promise." But when he was out, he would make a phone call, and someone would show up to deliver another batch. When Gaye was in the mood, he'd call for women. Sometimes groupies would visit him in his room, and sometimes even his ex-wives, Anna and Janice, would come by. With his paranoia at an all-time high, Gaye had an elaborate, expensive security and surveillance system installed in his parents' home. While he may have been living a fast and paranoid life, what caused the death of Marvin Gaye was an insurance document. On Saturday, March 31st, 1984, Gaye's parents engaged in several petty arguments. The main cause of tension was a misplaced insurance policy document. For the remainder of the day and well into the evening, Gaye's father would storm around the Gramercy house and yell at his mother about the missing document he insisted she lost. Eventually, Gaye had had enough and told his father to leave his mother alone. Marvin Sr. backed off, but continued to yell nonsensically throughout the house until he went to sleep. Marvin Sr. went to bed angry, and he woke up angry the next morning on Sunday, April 1st. Sometime around 12:30 p.m., he yelled up the stairs at his wife, who was in Gaye's bedroom. Gaye exited his room, leaned over the railing that overlooked the first floor of their home, and yelled back at his father that if he wanted to speak to his wife about the missing paperwork, then he should come up the stairs and ask her properly to her face. According to Alberta, Marvin Sr. immediately charged upstairs into Gaye's bedroom where she was sitting on the bed by her son. As Marvin Sr. barreled into Gaye's room, he once more began yelling at Alberta over the lost insurance document. Gaye Jr. jumped out of his bed and demanded that his father leave. But Marvin Sr. held his ground. That's when Gaye reportedly pushed his 70-year-old father out of the room and into the hallway, knocking him down in the process. Gaye then repeatedly kicked and punched his father while he was on the floor. Eventually, Alberta separated Gaye from his father. Marvin Sr. then picked himself up and calmly walked to his bedroom at the opposite side of the second-floor hallway. Minutes later, Marvin Sr. re-entered his son's bedroom. He was holding a .38 caliber handgun. Gaye had given that gun to his father several months earlier for self-protection. Without saying a word, he pulled the trigger. Marvin Sr. shot his son directly in the heart. Marvin's mother, who was standing about 8 feet away from Marvin, said, "My husband didn't say anything. He just pointed the gun at Marvin and shot." The shot entered Gaye's chest, then ricocheted through his right lung, heart, diaphragm, liver, stomach, and left kidney before stopping against his left flank. As Gaye's body lay on the floor, slumped against his bed, Marvin Sr. calmly walked toward his son and fired again, this time penetrating Gaye's left shoulder just below the clavicle. Once Marvin's brother, Frankie, was made aware of the shots, he ran inside the Gramercy house. His wife, Irene, called 911. According to Frankie in his 2003 book, Marvin Gaye, My Brother, Gaye, only able to whisper as blood was pouring out of both gunshot wounds, told him, "I got what I wanted. I couldn't do it myself, so I had him do it. It's good. I ran my race. There's no more left in me." When paramedics showed up at the scene, they demanded to see the gun before they would enter the house. After scrambling around Marvin Sr.'s bedroom, Irene found it under a pillow, carried it downstairs, and tossed it on the front lawn. By this time, nearly 20 minutes had passed since Gaye was shot. As he was rushed to California Hospital Medical Center 3 miles away, medics tried to resuscitate Gaye, but it was too late. Marvin Gaye was declared dead on arrival at 1:01 p.m., one day before his 45th birthday. Marvin Sr. was immediately arrested and held at the Los Angeles County Jail on $100,000 bail. Marvin Sr. gave the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner an account that varied slightly from the one his wife relayed. "I pulled the trigger. The first one didn't seem to bother him. He put his hand up to his face like he'd been hit with a BB, and then I fired again. I was backing towards my room. I was going to go in there and lock the door. This time I heard him say, 'Oh,' and I saw him going down. I do know that I did fire the gun. I was just trying to keep him back off me. I want the world to know it wasn't presumptuous on my part." Marvin Sr. appeared before Judge Gordon Ringer on November 2, 1984 for sentencing. Ringer was very stoic about the proceedings and said the following about the case. "This is one of those terribly tragic cases in which a young life was snuffed out. But under the circumstances, it seems to be agreed by everybody, including the very able and experienced investigating officers in this case, that the young man who died tragically provoked this incident, and it was all his fault." When asked if he loved his son, Marvin Sr. reportedly stated softly, "Let's say I didn't dislike him." Judge Ringer ordered a 6-year suspended sentence and 5 years of probation.